In the fall of 1992, Hollywood fell silent for a moment. One of its most recognizable faces was gone. Chuck Connors, tall, rugged, charming, had passed away. To most, he was Lucas McCain, the rifle-spinning cowboy from the hit series The Rifleman. But behind that character was a life far stranger, far richer than any Western ever dared to show. This wasn't just a story about fame. It was a life shaped by war, sports, heartbreak, and a brief, shocking chapter as an unlikely Cold War diplomat. Chuck Connors lived not one life but 5. And every one of them left a legacy. Born Kevin Joseph Aloysius Connors on April 10, 1921, he came into the world in a modest apartment in Brooklyn, New York. His parents, Alan and Marcella Connors, were Irish immigrants with big dreams and empty pockets. Alan worked as a longshoreman. Marcella took on odd jobs to keep the family afloat during the Great Depression. Life was brutal. But from an early age, Chuck learned 2 things: how to fight and how to dream. At the Bay Ridge Boys Club, he found a second home, and a love for sports. Baseball, basketball, football, track. Anything that demanded strength and discipline he embraced. At just 14, he was offered a scholarship to Adelphi Academy, a private school far from the working-class streets he called home. By 1939, Connors had become one of Brooklyn's top high school baseball players, receiving offers from over 24 colleges. He chose Seton Hall University in New Jersey, where he lit up the field and the court with a powerful blend of speed, grace, and raw drive. His nickname came naturally. As a first baseman, he'd yell to his teammates, "Chuck it to me." And Chuck stuck. But fate had a different plan. In 1942, as World War II intensified, Connors enlisted in the U.S. Army. His 6 feet 5 inches frame and athletic ability earned him a spot training soldiers in tank warfare at Fort Knox. Later, he was stationed at West Point, where he coached future football stars and taught discipline to a generation headed into battle. Even during war, Connors never let go of sports. When he could, he played semi-pro baseball and joined the American Basketball League. He returned home in 1946 with an honorable discharge, ready to chase his dreams full-time. That fall, Chuck Connors became a founding player for the Boston Celtics. In their inaugural season, he played 49 games, averaging 4.5 points per night. On December 13, 1946, he scored 15 points, his personal best. But something didn't feel right. Basketball wasn't it. By early 1947, he'd left the Celtics behind and signed with the Brooklyn Dodgers. His major league debut came on May 1, 1949. It didn't go well. He hit into a double play and the Dodgers lost. But Chuck didn't give up. He dropped into the minor leagues to sharpen his game, playing for teams like the Montreal Royals. In 1951, the Chicago Cubs called. Connors played 66 games, recorded 48 hits, and hit his first home run on July 18 against the New York Giants. A .239 average may not sound like much, but for a two-sport athlete bouncing between rosters, it was respectable. And then, Hollywood called. In 1952, while playing for the Los Angeles Angels, then a minor league team, he launched a home run that landed far beyond the field. One of the spectators that day was Billy Gordon, a casting director for MGM. Tall, chiseled, and All-American, Connors looked like he belonged on a movie poster. After the game, Gordon approached him and offered a screen test. Chuck laughed it off, until a leg injury benched him. With time to kill, he walked into MGM and walked out with a contract. His debut came in Pat and Mike, 1952, starring Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn. Connors had a minor role, but he took it seriously. He showed up early, rehearsed his lines, nailed the scene in 2 takes. Afterward, Spencer Tracy pulled him aside and said, "Kid, you've got something. Stick with it." And he did. Over the next 6 years, Chuck Connors acted in over 20 films, slowly building a reputation. He played a sympathetic rancher in Old Yeller, 1957, sharing the screen with a dog that would make families cry for decades. He rode with John Wayne in Trouble along the way and squared off with Gregory Peck in The Big Country. He wasn't just surviving, he was rising. By the late 1950s, Connors had made over a dozen TV guest appearances, sharpening his on-screen instincts. Then came The Rifleman. At first he hesitated. Television paid less than film and he'd worked hard to climb the ranks. But the producers believed he was perfect for Lucas McCain, a widowed Civil War veteran raising his son alone in the unforgiving Wild West. They sweetened the deal, a higher salary and 5% ownership of the show. Connors accepted. But he didn't just play the role, he became it. He learned to ride better, spin a rifle faster, fire a custom Winchester with a style that became iconic. He trained with Rod Redwing, a weapons expert who taught him to handle his rifle like an extension of his arm. Blisters became calluses. Calluses became character. When The Rifleman premiered on September 30, 1958, it was an instant success. Over 14 million Americans tuned in. But this wasn't just another shootout show. Lucas McCain was different. He was tough but tender. He taught lessons. Protected his son. Chose mercy over vengeance. Connors brought humanity to the Wild West. Behind the scenes, he worked as hard as he did on camera. He pitched stories. Polished dialogue. Insisted on historical authenticity. By the final season, he was officially credited as a story consultant, and co-wrote the series finale. Over 5 seasons, The Rifleman aired 168 episodes and became one of the highest-rated shows on television. It was a cornerstone of American culture. And Chuck Connors? He was the face of it all. But the fame came at a cost. While he became a household name, his personal life grew complicated. His first marriage ended in divorce. He struggled to balance the pressure of fame with the privacy he craved. There were whispers of scandals, quiet separations, and deep regrets that would come into focus in the years that followed. Still, fans never saw that pain. They saw Lucas. And through that role, they found strength, fatherhood, resilience. Chuck Connors gave them more than entertainment. He gave them an example. And yet, his story was only half told. What came after The Rifleman, the Cold War connections, the unlikely Soviet friendship, the marriages that unraveled, the shadows that followed him, would be even more surprising than the cowboy show that made him a star. Chuck Connors may have made his name with The Rifleman, but what followed after that iconic role was a battle for artistic survival. Success in Hollywood comes with a strange cost. The risk of becoming trapped by your own image. And Connors felt it hard. After 5 years of playing the noble rifle-spinning widowed rancher, he struggled to break free from the Western mold. Typecasting became his biggest enemy. Determined to prove he was more than a cowboy, Connors turned down several Western offers after The Rifleman ended in 1963. He stepped into unfamiliar territory, playing a modern banker in Move Over, Darling, 1964, and a sharp defense attorney in the crime series Arrest and Trial, 1963-64. He was searching for range, for credibility, for something different. And in 1977 he found it. In the groundbreaking miniseries Roots, Connors took on a role that shocked everyone. Tom Moore, a cruel plantation owner. It was a bold, jarring departure from his image as the moral Lucas McCain. Yet he committed fully, unflinching, cold, terrifying. Audiences were stunned. Critics praised him. And the industry took note. For this performance, Connors was nominated for an Emmy. It was proof that Chuck Connors could play more than heroes. He could play villains. He could play anything. But while his professional life fought to evolve, his personal life remained in constant conflict. His first marriage to Elizabeth Betty Riddell, a Montreal model, began in 1948. They had 4 sons. But as Connors' fame soared, their marriage strained. Rumors of infidelity swirled. Long shooting schedules, constant travel, and the pressures of celebrity created a growing emotional distance. In 1962 they divorced. He remarried in 1963, this time to actress Kamala Devi, whom he met while filming the western Geronimo. Their chemistry, both on screen and off, made them a favorite Hollywood couple. But behind closed doors, career differences and fading passion took a toll. By 1972 they too divorced. Then came his third marriage and arguably his most controversial. In 1977, Chuck married Faith Quabius, an actress 33 years younger than him. The age gap made headlines, but what truly rattled the public were the allegations that surfaced just 3 years later. The couple divorced in 1980 amid allegations of physical abuse. Connors denied them. The truth remains unclear, hidden behind the curtain of fame. Despite the scandals, Connors remained deeply admired by fans. There was something enduring about his persona. He carried that quiet dignity, that tough but decent energy, even when his personal life was in chaos. In the late 1970s, Connors found himself drawn into international diplomacy, by accident. In 1973, at a charity event in California, Connors met Soviet Premier Leonid Brezhnev, who turned out to be a massive fan of The Rifleman. Through translators, Brezhnev gushed about Lucas McCain and invited Connors to Moscow. Most assumed it was just political flattery. And in 1974, at the height of the Cold War, he traveled to the USSR, becoming one of the first American TV stars to visit the Soviet Union in a non-political capacity. The media dubbed him the Rifleman of Peace. Photographs of Connors and Brezhnev shaking hands ran in both Pravda and the New York Times. It was surreal. A cowboy from Brooklyn had become a symbol of cultural diplomacy. In private, Connors said he didn't care much for politics, but if meeting a fan helped ease global tensions, he was happy to play the part. His visit was so well received, he was invited back again in 1980. Not many actors can say they starred in a hit show, played professional sports, and casually built a rapport with the leader of a rival superpower. That was Chuck Connors, constantly unpredictable. In the 1980s, as television shifted and westerns declined, Connors transitioned into supporting roles and made-for-TV films. He appeared in guest spots on shows like Fantasy Island, The Love Boat, and Murder, She Wrote. Each time bringing the same gravity he once brought to the Wild West. But time was catching up. In the late 80s, Connors was diagnosed with lung cancer, a result of years of heavy smoking. He kept it mostly quiet, continuing to attend fan conventions and speak engagements. He never stopped engaging with his audience. He never stopped being the Rifleman. On November 10, 1992, Chuck Connors died at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles. He was 71. His death made headlines around the world. Tributes poured in. From co-stars, sports figures, politicians, and lifelong fans who had grown up watching him every week. But even in death, his legacy felt alive. The Rifleman reruns continued to air, inspiring new generations. His episodes played in Russia for years. His performances in films like Old Yeller and Roots remained fixtures in American classrooms. And those who met him? They spoke of his kindness, his handshake, his humility. He was never just an actor. He was a presence. Today, Chuck Connors is remembered not just for one role, but for the many identities he carried. Athlete, actor, husband, father, cultural bridge, controversial figure, Hollywood legend. He left behind no Oscar, no towering blockbusters. But he left behind something greater, a legacy of resilience, He never let his failures define him. He transformed them, adapted, reinvented, again and again. That's why his story still matters. Because Chuck Connors didn't just play a cowboy. He lived like one, flawed, fearless, and fiercely human.